Hey there. I see Indra's here. Welcome. And as always, I'd love to invite you up. Um, just getting going now and talking about storytelling personalization, how it's going to affect and improve your content, whether it's video content or tweets or LinkedIn posts or Instagram videos or reels. That's really what it's about. So, how are you, Indra?
Hey, I'm having a great morning. How are you, Bobby?
I'm all right. I'm all right. I've had a little bit of a stressful last little 24 hours, but I also had some really good moments too. So it's more like it's always funny, as life hits you with both, hard balls and softballs, and then there's also joyful moments. It's really always interesting to try to navigate those things. So I was going to talk about. I was thinking today we should talk about conflict because I have a conflict I'm dealing with, but I'm going to have that conversation. But I was like, I don't want to get into that. So let's talk about personalization and personal and storytelling, which is also, I mean, it is an interesting story. So I think that's something where I can certainly share a little bit about those things, and I think I want to also hear from other people and their stories. So we're just getting warmed up here, inviting people to join our conversation. If you would like to be part of this conversation and you want to tweet out, let me just put my tweet out there so that people can actually take a look at it and maybe tweet that out. That way we can get more people in the room. I'll try to do another tweet while we're chatting, but and then maybe I'll send some DMs because I want to get more people in the space to talk about this. And normally I do this space every week, right? So I haven't done all summer, but now I'm gearing up to doing them on a weekly basis. And of course, Indra's shown up several times to share her knowledge, and that's why I think she's been really great, and that's why I've kind of added her as a co-host. So thank you so much for that. Why don't you tell me before we get going, Indra? Maybe the title. I mean, what resonates most with you in the title?
Well, I think actually I'm going to go to the piece where, like with storytelling and personalization, I think it's really underestimated. And I actually experimented with this and I found so many different results. And I think it's something that sometimes we underestimate it so much because there's a lot of reasons why we don't want to share about our own stories or something that's real because maybe we think, there's a barrage of reasons why. So I have personally been playing with this, and I'll just give you one example while you're tweeting and doing things. But basically, there was one show where I kind of stepped out and I really gave us, one of my YouTube shows about mastering your fears. Because the thing is, I often think we're undervaluing our process and sharing that process. And a lot of the time, it can really inspire others. And it can also show others that, well, okay, well, it's not a clear path always for us, but there are these stepping stones. And sometimes you have to go through this process to unfold, to discover. So that's basically the YouTube show Master Your Fears was all about, was, basically sharing some of those things. And I think we really do we don't take the opportunity to break down some of those things and share them as, life lessons. And since I've been doing a lot more of that, I even also took one of your a note from you, Bobby, and I started even sharing some things in my newsletters. And I've had a lot more people signing up for my newsletters. I've been blown away uh, at the number of people just because of that fact of personalizing it a little bit more. And it doesn't have to be every single, piece of content, but here and there, add something, you know, that is about you that they can connect to. And even sometimes some of those people have been even watching those things happen.
Yeah, I mean, and the whole reason why we're doing this topic is because storytelling is a huge part of creating a human connection with people. It's a great way to break through the clutter with all the stuff that's out there, and I think and storytelling is a skill. I think storytelling is something that a lot of people struggle with. One you mentioned already, which is they're struggling to, well, do I really need to share this, and will anyone care what I have to say? And that becomes something that kind of holds us back. That mindset issue, which I often talk about. Last week we talked about mindset, so I think that's one issue. The other one is storytelling in a very effective way. I think a lot improving your effectiveness as a storyteller, because there are some storytellers, or at least I try to be storytellers, but they meander a bit too long, or they can't stay focused, or they bring up too many different things. And so I think when we look at some videos online, yeah, or even speeches, you lose people. There's a reason why TEDx talks are so powerful, because these people have been trained and curated and really worked on putting together a really powerful story, along with a lesson or message that can entertain, educate, inspire, or inform people in a manner that gets people really excited to even take action, to say, well, I don't want to be that. I don't want to go through that situation. I want to be someone who can make that impact and make a difference. And so that's why storytelling is so important. And then personalization, the reason why personalization is so important is because, and the personalization piece came from a discussion that's going on currently on LinkedIn, which is people are like, well, LinkedIn isn't Facebook, and why are you sharing these personal stories about your dog and your cat and your wife and your kids, and someone's sick, blah blah blah. And what they don't realize is that uh, every single thriving community and culture, and every single thriving relationship, business relationship, professional relationship, personal relationship, starts with a human connection. So if I go to a business conference, or if I go to a networking event, I meet people, and we don't talk just about work. What do you do? Like that, we don't talk about just about our work. I'm a nanotechnologist. No, we share personal thoughts and ideas, and and in turn, and that personal connection leads to building a relationship, which leads to familiarity, which leads to trust. And when you build that strong relationship, then you can build business. So, that's why personalization of content. And again, to Indra's point, personalization is different for each person. Like one person will talk about very, very deep, vulnerable things. Another person will talk about just, a mentor they admire, and that's okay. I think we have to pick the personalization piece that works best for each and one of us. And Susan, I see your hands up, but just give me a second. I want to be able to do a quick introduction, then I'm going to get to people on stage too. And if anybody else wants to come on stage too and ask a question or share a thought or whatnot, or need some help, we welcome you to come up on stage. Just put your hand up. We'd love to have you there. Um, with that, Indra, why don't you do a quick introduction of yourself, and then I'll go into my introduction and a quick story, and then we'll go into the questions.
Thanks so much, Bobby. Well, thank you for having me and here, and thank you for holding this important space on storytelling and personalization of our content. Well, hello everyone. My name is Indra Bartona. I am a Hollywood producer in film and television, a TV host, and also the founder of the Positivity Vibe Tribe, a global community that also is based here on Twitter. And one of my pet things that I'm doing at the moment is I have a YouTube channel and I create a lot of content that's all about living a positive lifestyle. Just recently, my short film has won 3 awards this year. The Night Out. It is a thriller dramatic piece, and we've actually been accepted into 7 more film festivals, so that's really exciting. Thank you so much, Bobby.
Holy cow, that's really good news. Thanks so much for sharing that. I'm really happy for you. My name is Bobby Omar. I am a professional speaker by trade. For the last 17 years, I've traveled around the world. I've done 1,000 keynotes and workshops across 4 continents. I've done 5 TEDx talks, and I focus mostly on leadership. But within that, I talk about personal branding, thought leadership, digital marketing, authentic connection, and leveraging digital tools like LinkedIn, Twitter, and Clubhouse and social audio to build your brand and take your thought leadership brand to the next level. And by doing so, if you get clarity in your brand and you build a thought leadership brand, then I can help you get more business, more media gigs, more speaking opportunities, and a TEDx talk. That's kind of what I do. And I also want to mention that you can also tweet this out. You can retweet the tweet in the nest up above. You can share this with your audience. If you tag me and say, "Hey, join this space around storytelling personalization," then I'll see it, I'll retweet it, and then that'll go to my 500,000 followers, which then can gain you some followers too. So it's a win-win. You can also share questions in the group chat. On the bottom right, you'll see a little purple button there. I think it's purple for everybody, where you can actually click and you can share a thought or share an insight or ask a question. So that's what it's all about. So I'm going to talk about storytelling personalization, and I'm going to start by telling you a story. So here's my story. So many years ago, I was at a wedding, and I met. I was at I was away with, and my I was actually at the wedding party, and my one of my best friends was in the wedding party too. And I met this girl at one of the tables, and we started chatting about things that we both found interesting. One was Star Trek, another one was Monty Python, and another one was musical theater. And I thought she was really great. And later on, I decided to ask her to dance with me, and she said yes. And she seemed really awkward and shy about it when I asked her. But as soon as we got onto the dance floor, she buried her head in my chest, like she was afraid to talk to me. And I was like, and my friends who were dancing around me, they're like, "What's going on?" I was like, I don't know what's going on. This is weird." Um, but we had a great connection, and then we talked for about an hour. But eventually we got distance, and she was at another table, and I didn't talk to her. And then by the end of the evening, I was like, "Oh, let me give her a shout," and we agreed to meet up. And so we met up a couple of days later in Vancouver, and that's where we actually connected and we shared our first kiss. But I was in Toronto, and so I flew back, and so we're 4 hours apart. She's on the West Coast. I'm in the middle of the North America, and we decided to start a long distance relationship. And I told her that's going to be really difficult because my parents are very strict. They're very strict conservative Muslims, and so it's going to be really difficult for this to even work out. But I decided to give it a try because I thought she had similar values. I thought it would work out. And so when it came time to finally, open up to my parents, this is where it gets interesting because it took 4 years, 4 years of secrecy, 4 years of long distance, 2 years long distance. 2 years she finally was in Toronto where I was. And when I finally came out to my parents, I spoke to them to try to figure out a way to make a connection. And what I did was I focused on four values that I knew my parents cared about. Number one, respect. Number two, family. Number three, religion. And number four, love. Family, love, respect, and religion. Those are the four values in which I decided to speak to my parents about this potential person who I presented as someone, as a potential person that I could maybe be with. And that's kind of how I presented it. And eventually, even though it was a difficult several months and there was an intervention, they eventually came around. And when they first met her, she was trembling so much. But I told her that if my parents came around, it's going to be a complete 180-degree turn. And so we met and we planned a wedding, and so we had the wonderful wonderful wedding on 020202. And now we have beautiful beige kids who are 11 and 14, and they're thriving and growing up, and it's been an amazing experience. What's the lesson from this? The lesson is that if there is love in the family, the connection, parents will come around. And if you want to speak to parents who have different values, you speak to them in values that they understand. So I use family, love, respect, and religion, things that they could respond to and understand. And in doing so, I created that connection that led to the positive result. Now, I tell that story because I want you to understand the power of stories. How many people in the audience, and maybe you can do it with a show of like hearts or claps or whatever, how many people related to the story because they know someone who's in a similar situation, or they know that they've been in a similar situation with a mixed culture or mixed ethnic relationship? That to me is the thing that really relates to people. How many people relate to the fact that we all have struggles with talking to our parents about things because we're different than our parents? Right? How many people relate to a love story in terms of the awkwardness in the beginning and the conflict, but then at the end of the positive result? The reason why I tell the story is because it creates that deep connection where people can understand and get a lot out of what I'm sharing. Now, I don't expect everyone to share all their content that way, but I share that story here in this room because I'm willing to share a more vulnerable story to demonstrate the power of a really, really good story. Now, that was pretty short, but if I tell it longer, like 10 minutes, like a TED talk, maybe I could get even more emotional resonance from it. But that's why storytelling is so important. That's why I'm glad you're here, because I want to talk about storytelling and I want to talk about personalization of content so we can help you guys out. So come up on stage, ask your questions, share your thoughts, tell me a bit about your story, and let's learn from one another. I see that Susan has left, so sorry we weren't able to get to her. I guess she was in a rush, or it can only be for a short time. If that happens, you can certainly ping me a quick DM or something, or use the group chat in the bottom right corner. Let me know, hey, I'm only here for 10 minutes. Can I quickly speak? I'm cool with that. But let's go to Delta Digital Marketing. Welcome to the stage. How are you doing?
Uh, Hi everyone. Good evening or good afternoon. My name actually, I would like to say hi to everyone here in this space with respectful. I'm Aladdin. I live in Saudi Arabia. Actually, I'm a Sudanese guy. I know there is a far distance between wherever you are, guys. I think you are in the US and back here in the Middle East. Uh, I don't know what to say actually, but I like your story actually. I follow it since first word you start to say it. And I have different culture. Actually, we are here back in Europe. We have different cultures. Like actually, for me myself, my mom is from a culture and my dad from another culture. Those are black Africans and those are Arabs, white people. For me and my wife, also I'm a Sudanese guy and she's a Moroccan or she's a Moroccan. We have the different in culture, we have the different in thoughts, but doesn't matter as long as there is, as you said, there is a love in the corner, as there is a family and a great value out of this relationship. I think this will give the strong boundary for the relationship to continue through the life. Uh, I don't know what to say more. Uh, I'll be back here in the States so I can get some good and cool ideas from you guys. We are planning to do about Delta digital marketing. It's a new registered in Twitter. We are planning also to do some advertisement and promotion for football Saudi leagues because we are one of the participated in this league. We do some advertising. We do so to call some foreign companies to come over to discover Saudi Arabia and the coming booming economy in Saudi Arabia. Um, that's it. Thank you for the chance.
Yeah, thanks so much for sharing that, and I appreciate that my story resonated with you. I think that that's one of the reasons why we encourage people to tell stories because you never know who's going to resonate with that story. But also, the stories storytelling is a great way to break through the clutter. There's so much noise out there. There's so much stuff out there. How do we get people to notice us and hear us? It's by telling those stories and sharing those stories. And I think and Indra, you mentioned that you mentioned you used something that I had said for one of your tactics. Can you clarify what that was? I was just curious.
Oh, sure. So, yeah, I actually just skipped over it because I didn't want to go into too much detail there. But I remember we were in a space, and it was several months ago, and you were sharing some different ways, some examples on to just personalize something, and you even said, look, you can put it, in a tweet, you can put it in a post, whether it's on Twitter, on LinkedIn, or you could add something to personalize your newsletter. Now, I was sort of taken back by that, and I thought, Bobby's telling me to add some personal things or personalizing it, sharing some experience, some tried and true or something that, has worked. And I was sort of like, all right, here we go. But I have actually been doing that now every now and again. And what I'll do is I will even share the journey. And that's what you were sort of encouraging us. Like, well, maybe you can share something like, okay, well, I was trying this and this is what I've been doing. Share some updates, about, your process or, hey guys, I was trying A and now I'm trying B. And so I was basically sharing that, the journey of the Positivity Vibe Tribe and what we've been doing and all the different things. And I actually recently shared, it wasn't last week, I think it was the week before, I actually just shared an entire newsletter and I just called it, um, what was it? Everything Positivity Vibe Tribe, basically. And so I just went through all the different resources and, why I created this. And there was a need for this, for A, for B. And so I really kind of took what you said and I just tried it. And so many people, I got so many comments about, oh, I didn't know there was all this, or I didn't know you were doing this, and just kind of breaking down the background. So the thing is, I think a lot of us think, oh, well, nobody's going to be interested in this. Nobody's really going to want to know all the details. But actually, a lot of people are curious and a lot of people want to hear the details and they want you to share. And so I think, sometimes we hold ourselves back. And I thought, oh, look, nobody's going to really want to know all these details. Well, so many people did. And in fact, people shared that newsletter with other people, and I got a lot more people that subscribed on that particular week.
Yeah, and the other thing that really is really great with storytelling and personalization is, and particularly if you go really vulnerable, you know, Brené Brown did research that showed that when you share vulnerability, you open up an opportunity for people to connect with you on a deeper level. And so the same thing happens with storytelling and personalization of content, where when you do share that stuff, people are more open to and more likely to and more they feel more free to share with you, which means that when you do a post on Instagram or LinkedIn, they will share a comment. When you do a tweet, they will reply. When we I do a story here on this Power of Connection chat on Twitter Spaces, they may come up and share their own story, or ask their own question. So it opens a gate for people to feel accessible. I mean, people sometimes get intimidated by, oh, Bobby's got a blue check mark and has a 500,000 followers, but can I talk to him? Sure, you can talk to me. I mean, everyone started at zero. Like, it's not like I mean, there are people who get check marks on different platforms and they get lots of followers and they become, I don't know, a little bit, they get a little bit less open and accessible. But a lot of us, we're just regular folks and we want to help people and we love to have conversations. So I think that's an incredibly important piece to storytelling and personalization. And the easiest way to personalize something, if you want to just start very simple, the easiest way to personalize anything, yeah, I can personalize anything. See, right now I'm having tea, right? So I'm having tea. Now, that's not really personal, but what I can say is that I did get tea from my mother. My mother drank tea every day. And so I would often have tea with my mom and we'd have these great conversations. And so that was a great connector for us. I just personalized my tea drinking by sharing a little bit of extra context around, what I'm doing. The way you personalize anything, whether it's a tweet or a story or a post, is you share something, an experience from your life, but more importantly, you share a feeling. Share a feeling of, this is what's happening, and here's how I feel about it and why I feel that way. And by just even doing that, whether you're talking about tea or carrots or a pencil or something even more deep, you can start to personalize the content in a way that's more relevant and that resonates. I see Delta has put their hand up again. So why don't you go ahead and do you have a question for us?
Actually, yes, Mr. Bob, Mr. Bobby. Okay. Just I want you to share with us, or to share, especially for me, because maybe I'm from different culture, or from different place of the world. Uh, how do you get to TED to be a great speaker? Because I went now to see some of your Twitter, some of your tweets, and you are, I think, a very good speaker there. So, what is your personal experience with TED, or how we can be one day, what is it, like, become like someone like you, sir? Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for the question. That's actually a perfect segue into the tweet that's up above here. So you'll notice I put a tweet in the nest above where it says, becoming a TEDx speaker. I'm actually doing my first ever live stream workshop, which is going to be on LinkedIn, but it's also going to be on Twitter too. So you'll see it on Wednesday. And I'm going to talk about how to land a TEDx talk. I'm also working with my partner. We're going to talk a bit about how to build your business and brand and thought leadership, but TEDx is part of it too. So I'm going to focus on that, and it's free. So if you want to take a look at that and be part of that conversation, we welcome you to join us for that. The general thing when it comes to TEDx talks is most people who get TEDx talks, number one, they need to have a clear idea that makes sense and that's relevant and unique, and they need to be able to demonstrate that they can actually communicate that idea within the culture of TEDx, which includes storytelling. So, storytelling personalization is a huge aspect of the TEDx brand, and so if you can do that, it's going to be great for your brand too, because it's going to lead to more authority. It's going to lead to more clients. It's going to lead to more opportunities. It's going to lead to more speaking gigs. The people that are in my speaker mastermind program where I teach them how to get speaking gigs, I tell them get a TEDx talk, because anyone can get a TEDx talk, because every single one of you has a story and a purpose and a legacy out there. And so if we can just work with you to extract that and really hone that, then that's how we're going to get to that TEDx talk. So I hope that answers the question. Anyone else wants to come on stage, they totally can. Um, Indra, what's your experience with TEDx? Are you still looking to do one now, or where are you at with that?
Oh, well, look, I really loved your the course that I took with you, Bobby. I have to say, I learned so much. I still have all my notes. I have pages and pages of notes that I typed up. It was a lot of value, and you really just broke everything down and made it. achievable in my eyes. Like you're trying to share with everybody here, I didn't really understand how achievable it was until I did the course with you. So I really love that. But I have,
But
yeah,
I love that,
but I know. So, but I started development for my feature film. So I've been a little bit distracted from focusing on putting my TEDx talk together. But what I have done is I have developed certain um, things that you have taught us. And I don't want to go into too much detail because it doesn't make a lot of sense to everybody until they've actually done the course. But I have been working on a lot of things and progressing it. So I feel like if I had to really, if somebody said, okay, well, you could probably do a TEDx talk, in 2 weeks, I could probably go to those pieces that I've already developed because I understood how to do it, and I could probably put it all together and head on to stage. And also, I'm kind of leveraging off my hosting experience as well, and having that as kind of a bit of a confidence backer with now the preparation on how to put it all together. So I'm definitely going to do one. I just have to figure out when. And every now and again, that was a good reminder that I should probably keep working and developing on that preparation. So then if somebody says, can you do one next week? I'll be like, yes, I'll do it next week.
well, I think the general thing to keep in mind is that planning a TEDx talk, building your business, becoming more fit by working out, producing a program, and running workshops are all part of things that we fit in our lives, right? So you have to decide, like I'm not the best at fitting in fitness in my life, but if I could just put in 3 4 hours a week, I probably get some results. Similarly for the TEDx talk, I think if someone could put in 2 to 3 to 4 hours a week of work on advancing the TEDx talk while they're doing other things, then they can get to that result much more quickly. So that's something to keep in mind. Oh, it looks like we lost our other person who was speaking. Boy, so I guess we have to. People get on stage, and I want them to speak. So, anybody else want to come on stage and ask a question or share something? We'd love to have. I see some people. I know this is great. Like, come on up and share a thought or share a tip. We'd love to hear from you. In the meantime, again, we're talking about storytelling, personalization of content. Oh, there we go. Someone's coming up. Okay, let's hear from Jesse. Jesse, go ahead, please.
Sorry, was it the go ahead to me?
Yeah, go
Well,
ahead.
for starters, I wanted to say congratulations to Indra on developing your feature. That's amazing. Good for you. You've been talking about that for a little while there, so it's really exciting to hear it finally taken off for you. Fucking awesome. Sorry, language. Freaking awesome. Freaking awesome. There we go. Um, but besides that, I would say that now, admittedly, I joined a little bit late, but something that I've always been told and had this reinforced by just about everybody that I've come to either have as a mentor or view as a mentor or see as somebody who knows wiser than me, or so on and so on and so on, is that the thing that matters about as much as preparation is making sure that it's authentic, making sure that your voice is in there, making sure you don't over edit yourself or over like script yourself, overwrite yourself. Make sure it still sounds like you. Make sure your voice is still present. Make sure that it's still you at the end of the day, if you can. And that is really, really tough. And it's something that gets forgotten and thrown out very, very easily once you get into the refinement stage.
I love that, Jesse. It's true. We don't want to lose ourselves in the process of becoming a better storyteller, a better personalizing our content, or being a TEDx speaker. And so, when I work with people, I have to say, well, let's figure out your style. What's your speaker style? What is your energy style? Because we all have different types of energy. So, for me, my energy is the dynamics of my voice and my energy on stage. Other people have energy from different things. They may have a voice, they may have a stance, they may have a smile, they may have something else. And then maybe they use comedy and humor to have that power on stage. So that's a really important thing for us to work on and develop. And I think that's a big part of why I'm a big believer in personal branding, because when you dive deep in your personal brand, you get to understand a bit about who you are, how people experience you, what is the emotional experience that they have with you, and that includes your strengths. And so when you develop that platform, that strategy, that content, that story, that everything, you make sure that you leverage the elements of your personal brand within that. Indra, any thoughts you want to add to this?
Oh, a lot. First of all, thank you so much, Jesse. Really appreciate your support, and thank you so much. I'll be sharing a lot on my journey with everybody as it starts to progress. But I have a lot of thoughts on this because we all are so different and unique. And I think it's about tapping into our uniqueness and figuring out what are the things that really work for us. Because I think, like, sometimes it's easy to fall into the trap of trying to emulate somebody. And I think that's where it becomes more challenging. So instead of emulating somebody or thinking, okay, well, I'm going to try that style, to sort of find out what is specifically your style. And sometimes, like when I've actually taught a TV coaching course, I've actually asked people to, okay, I want you to really look at yourself and just be honest and write down on the page, what are my strengths in this area? You know, when I speak, when I'm talking to camera, and with a TEDx talk, it could be when I'm on stage instead. You know, and then some of the challenges, you know, just kind of like really be brutal with yourself, what you have to overcome or what you have to work on those pieces. So it's sometimes that is sort of a basic journey of figuring out and then focusing on developing and strengthening the shortfalls and and finding different ways to do that to tackle. And I'm sure Bobby has a whole array of options in that area. And then, secondly, also to acknowledge yourself for all the positives that you have and to really build yourself up on those and focus and figure out how those pieces can work for you in the framework of, in this example, a TEDx talk, of being on stage with many, many people, of having you know, a very structured and thought out process, which is what I found and discovered in Bobby's talks, you know, his in his courses specifically.
Thanks, Indra. And I'm not paying her to say these things. She's just being really, really nice, which I appreciate. Thanks so much for that. And yeah, people often ask me, like, how do you, well, I mean, oh, sorry, I lost my train of thought. Shoot. Well, again, what Indra was saying, again, resonates a lot with me. And Jesse, thanks so much. Guys, stay on stage too. Like, share your knowledge. I think it's really, really great. I think it's good to see that. People ask me questions all the time about speaking and about TEDx talks and all that kind of stuff. A big part of it is really making sure you have a clear plan and a clear target, and do the work. A lot of people don't want to do the work, and I think that's where it takes work. It doesn't happen overnight. You have to, like, it's just like fitness. You have to put the work in, and so if you can put the work in, you can actually get the results. I've seen too many people give up, or even get angry and say, well, I'm not getting the result I want. Okay, great. Did you put together 3 topic ideas, and did you put together a summary of how it's going to impact the audience? No, no, I just did one, and I just, didn't. Wrote a couple bullets. Okay, well, that's why it's not working. You're not doing what you need to do. You need to dive deep in your speaker story. You need to understand your brand. You need to understand your target. You need to really understand who your audience is and how you can impact them before you get the result that you want. So make sure you do the work. Um, we're talking about storytelling, personalization of story content, and why that matters. If you like this space, tweet it out there. If you can join the group discussion on the bottom right, invite people via DM. We'd love to have more people in the conversation. And of course, there will be a replay. So one of the things you can do is you can take a photo of this space. You can tweet out, or even share on Instagram or on LinkedIn. Here are the top 3 things I've learned from this conversation. I mean, those are things you can do that can go well. Let's go to Nola. Nola, good to see you. How are you?
I'm good, Bobby. How are you?
I'm doing well, thank you. I'd love to hear your thoughts or questions or insights.
So I actually applied for TEDx Toronto earlier this year and got rejected. And when you say it's about doing the work, what I've done since then is really just make sure that I'm building a foundation and putting myself out there. So, for example, I did Elevate Tech Fest last week, and I got invited to speak on a panel, and that gave me the feeling of what it's actually like to be up on stage in front of the lights and engaging with the audience. And I discovered that my brand of speaking is really engaging the audience. I was like one of the only people that was actually part of the panel who was actually speaking to the audience. And so my question is, what else can you do to really build up that foundation that's going to be helpful to make a TED Talk possible?
Yeah, thanks for that. And actually, you just remind me of the thing that I want to tell people, which is people often ask, how do I get TEDx talks, and also how do I get better storytelling? And the truth is, I always ask for feedback,
Mhm.
right? So when I do speeches over the years, I ask for feedback. They say, Bobby, that was a great speech. I'm like, thank you so much. What did you like about it, or what do you think I can improve? And I'll ask people specifically for that because I want to get that information. Same with and some of the stories I've told like 500 times. A lot of my network when I first started speaking, I taught about authentic networking, and I have networking stories that I've probably told now 500 times in my life. And every single time I find something new or a new way to hone it, or to land the joke, or to make it more effective. Now, in terms of TEDx talks, I mean, again, the workshop I'm doing is up above. We'll tell a lot of this stuff, but the general thing is a big part of the TEDx is people when you apply for TEDx talks. Uh, most of the people who are in my TEDx programs, they struggle to find the right topic or content. They try to pick one that they're focused on selling their business, which is what you shouldn't be doing. You should be coming with a personal story. Another thing they try to do is they try to tell their entire life story, which again you shouldn't be doing. If you have a really one of my clients, she had this really complicated life story of all these really crazy things that happen, and she wanted to tell the whole story. But I said, no, you know what? That's not going to work. Why don't you lay out all the different points of your story, like bullet points, and then we extract that one moment in time and what that lesson is from that one part of your story. So many people want to share a life story. The other thing, so putting together the right topic that the TEDx audience will want, putting together the right title that will entice the TEDx organizers, and then putting together the description of why it matters and why that specific TEDx event will want to hear the story is a huge part of it. Now, I'll be very transparent with TEDx Toronto. TEDx Toronto is a very large, organization, and I've
Oh,
applied for
I
them.
know. Go big or go home, right?
Yeah, yeah. So,
I mean,
so
I
I,
expected to get rejected, but it was just like, okay, it was, I'll just throw it out there. But
Yeah, and I could even tell you it's the only place that I've actually applied to be a TEDx. Well, actually, that's not true. Uh, it's the only place I've ever tried to apply to be a TEDx speaker that and failed. So
I'm in good
so
company.
yeah, so I mean, of my five TEDx, I've actually been approached for 8 TEDx talks. I rejected three of them, but
Wow.
all the TEDx talks I've gotten were gone because they reached out to me. And except for one that I applied to, which was my last one, the fifth one, which was about the 20-second hugs. I saw that one. I was like, oh, I gotta submit my hug idea, and so I did, and then I got it. TEDx Toronto, I've applied 3 times, but they don't want people like motivational speakers like myself, so it's harder for me. But the other thing, of course, is the other two things are really important: is building relationships with people who are part of TEDx. So the
Yeah.
organizers, the coordinators, all of the volunteers. You can even volunteer for the organization too, and build that relationship and do like a
I tried
long term.
that. I tried that. They rejected me for that too.
Well, again, it is in high demand, right? So TEDx Toronto in
Yeah.
particular is in very, very high demand. So it might be a longer term plan. And then the last thing, of course, is the larger thought leader brand you have out there.
Yeah.
So influence, followers, connections, all that kind of stuff. The more likely they're going to want you, right?
Yeah.
So that to me, the reason why I got asked, 7 times to do a TEDx talk is because I had this strong brand that people saw me putting my stories out there, and they heard me speak, and they wanted me to be in their show.
Yeah.
So that will go a long way too. Hope that's
Yeah, I've been
helpful.
doing that. So I've been doing podcasts. I have my own podcast. I've been getting media. I'm doing all of that stuff. I think it's really just the timing has to be right. So, anyways, I very rarely get an opportunity to join, so it popped up, and I thought I would have the opportunity to join. So, I just went to say hi, basically.
Yeah, I am glad you're here. I'm delighted to have you here. It's nice to see you, and thanks so much for that. And yeah, I mean, the other thing with TEDx is like how important is TEDx to you for your brand? If it is, then knowing that TEDx Toronto has been around for a long time and it's at the 900 plus level of audience members, because different TEDx talks are at 100, 300, 900. So, if you really want the TEDx brand, you can pick another one that's local, because even in Toronto where we're based, there's at least a dozen,
Well, I was
right?
looking. There's one in Waterloo, isn't there?
Yeah, there's. I would
Yeah.
say, well, if you look at the entire southern area of Ontario, there's going to be like 50. So there's other ones you can do that
Mm,
you can maybe apply for and get a speaker. Because then once you have that one TEDx speaker brand, that's huge for you, and then
yeah.
it'll help you get the other ones as well.
Okay. Yeah, and I'm not really building my brand to be a speaker, but it's about the level of authority and the credibility that it brings to me for the consulting work.
Exactly. And that's why it says in my
Yes.
tweet above, building your authority, because a
Yes.
TEDx talk is like having a book, it's like having a program, right? It's authority and expertise because you're basically demonstrating yourself as someone who has authority, has expertise, is a good storyteller, and a good teacher, trainer, presenter, or coach. So that's why having a TEDx talk matters.
Yeah, that's why it's on my list. So.
Awesome.
Anyways, I got to go, but thank you again. I appreciate it always. See ya.
My pleasure. Thank you. Thank you. Indra, can we go? Do you mind if we go to the next speaker, the next question person here? Unless you have something to
Yeah,
add, Indra.
no, I think it's Karen. Is it the next person?
No, I believe it's the
Uh,
No, I believe it's actually NYTR Productions. They were
Oh,
here
okay. I'm
first.
sorry.
So go ahead first.
well, hey everybody. I just wanted to say thank you for the space. I like that we're all kind of just giving different perspectives. And I was listening when Bobby Umar said that you kind of just want to lay out all your content, and you want to give it in a descriptive storytelling fashion. And I kind of picked up on that because that's kind of what I was kind of doing. And so I want to do a deeper research into that so I can get more details. So I don't really want to be a TED Talk speaker. I'm just more being insightful on different ways to engage with the audience and different types of content that audience like to see, because sometimes you could just pick a little bit from each video or content that you're watching, and you can put it into one small clip and you can get a very nice video. So that's just kind of what I was here for, just getting different perspectives and putting it into my own philosophy, should I say.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. Thank you so much for that. And there are lots of different ways to engage on it. We talk about storytelling. We talk about personalization of content. I mean, there's people who share short videos. There's people who are really good with data presentations. I remember watching a TEDx talk, and it was all about financial stuff, finances, and I really, that's something that just did not appeal to me. But he did it in such a way that he told a great story. He shared data that made sense to me, and next thing I was like, wow, that was great. Like I learned a lot. I was inspired. So people are able to use like PowerPoint or like digital media or animation to really drive home the point. I mean, one thing that I'm really known for is I'll go into the audience. So how like comedians go into the audience and engage them. I'll go into audience and actually engage people. It's something that I'm known for doing, and I'll actually talk to people and say, hey, tell me a bit about you. Where are you from? What's going on? What are your biggest challenges? How can I help you? What did you think of it? And I'll engage them. And for me, I make it really clear that I want to make myself accessible to people, and I think a lot of people like that. So I think again, having different tactics and knowing where your strengths are will go a long way. And that's why for me, I don't focus on having really tech heavy stuff, but other people who are good at that, yeah, they totally use that for their speeches and talks and things like that. Indra, anything you want to add?
I really loved how NYTR mentioned that you have a good overview of how you were giving everybody advice to put things together, to first of all figure out, what the topics are, to also the audience focus, I think is really important as well, to understand what you're going to give to your audience, what they're going to get from the speech, from the information. So I love that he took a note of that, and it's all really good stuff here.
I appreciate that. And I see Teresa put her hand up, but Karen is next. Teresa, did you have a comment specifically to that, or are you just waiting in line for your time?
Question. So please have the other person go ahead.
Okay.
I'm happy to stay in line.
Thanks, Teresa. I appreciate that. Karen, go ahead, and then we'll go to Gaurav.
Thank you, first of all, for giving me an opportunity to speak. I'm Karan Agarwal from India. And I have a question to ask that the most important thing when we speak, whether it's with a large audience or while we are speaking to in a conversation of two people, the most important thing is what our audience or what the other people is thinking about that conversation. What are they comprehending from what we are speaking with? So I want to know that how do we understand? See, if we are in a conversation, we are present. We can see the behavior pattern of the audience, but when we are speaking online or in a digital medium, so how do we understand that what the other person or the audience is understanding or comprehending from what we are speaking? And secondly, what are they liking what we are speaking, and whether they are interested or they are bored?
All right. So the second question was about knowing whether they're interested or bored. Is that what you said?
Yes.
Okay, okay. Well, let's go back to the first one. So, I mean, yeah, I mean, when you're doing a live presentation, you can get a feel for what people are resonating with and what they're not. When it's virtual, it's much harder. I would say that the most important thing here is to play the long game. You have to be constantly asking people for feedback and for input and finding out what exactly it is they want. What is it they like? What is it they don't like? So even with virtual, like, so you can prepare in advance by let's say you're doing a virtual presentation for 20 people. Ask them in advance, hey, what are your three objectives for this course, and what is something you are hoping to get, and what is something you're really not interested in? And by understanding your audience, that'll go a long way. The same process goes for personal branding. When I think about my target audience and I dive deep into who I am and my values and what people like about me and what they don't like about me, and by understanding that knowledge, I'm able to then figure out, how to address and cater to the audience that I speak to, and then whether they like you or not. I mean, the best way to understand that, and the other big thing I'll do is I'll always ask, even during a presentation myself, I'll ask a question. One of the best tactics I use as a speaker is I will ask a question at the beginning of the audience and get people to share thoughts, and then later on at the end of the presentation, I'll revisit what we just talked about and say, do we answer some of those questions? And people love that because they feel like they've been heard, they feel like they've been empowered, and they feel like they are part of the conversation. So that's a way to really engage people. How do you know people like you or not? Well, the one is how they're looking at you intently, and one is how they are nodding, maybe clapping their hands like people are right now. If it's virtual, it's harder, right? And that's one of the reasons why I insist on having cameras on, because if the cameras are not, if the cameras are off, you could bet, because I do it too, that we're doing something else at the same time. I do it too, so it's fine. I get it. But if you're the people who pay for a workshop with me, and then to turn the camera off and don't want to be a part of it, well, they're fine, as long as I hope they're getting the value for the money they spend. But like, they're not engaging as much. So and the other big rule I'll share with you, there's a rule that I learned from my first speaking mentor called the 10-80-10 rule. 10% of your audience are people who love you. 80% of the audience are undecided, and 10% of the audience are people that don't care to be there. And so what a lot of speakers do is they spend a lot of time. If you can mute your mic, Jesse, that would be helpful. Thanks.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
It's a bit noisy. So the bottom 10% who don't care to be there, too often speakers will spend their time trying to encourage them. No, this is why networking is important. No, here's why personal branding is so important. No, here's the data. Here's the story. Come on. And you know what? Forget about those people. You don't need to worry about that bottom 10%. And the top 10%, again, we spend time talking to them because they make us feel good. They're smiling, they're nodding, they're laughing. They're 10 times more attractive because they seem to love you so much. But you should only use those people to recharge your energy and your batteries. The focus should be on the 80% in the middle, and try to make that 80% to convert them to the top 10%. Right? That's called the 10-80-10 rule. And I think it's a great rule to take on. Indra, anything you want to add? I know we're going off topic here. We're talking about speaking, but storytelling, personalization is still part of speaking. So, Indra, any thoughts?
It is, yeah. No, I liked your example, and it's exactly the same thing when I'm teaching an on-camera class. The people that you notice that aren't really engaging. I mean, sometimes they've got different styles, so they're not comfortable speaking and everything else. I usually try to investigate what is behind all of that. Like, what are they doing? Is it busy? Are they busy taking notes? I try to figure out the personalities as well, because everybody kind of learns at a different rate, and some people want to see lots and lots of examples before they even start to step up and actually show you what they've put together, for their preparation. So it's very individual. But yes, I agree, Bobby. Those people that are not, at the front going, yes, pick me, I want to do it first. It's usually that you need to spend a little bit more time, a little bit more focus, and just figuring out, is it that they really don't want to be there, or that they're having a little bit more of a struggle to kind of, come up with, step up to the plate and do what's required with the exercises and with, the process and all the research.
Yeah, and again, that's a good segue in the idea that when it comes to storytelling, personalization, and speaking, and TEDx talks, mindset's a big part of it. So if we're trying to build a business, we're trying to build our platforms, we're trying to excel in leadership. The mindset is something that gets in the way. And so, if you're interested, I put in the tweet chat above, the nest above. There's a workshop I'm doing on Thursday on how to actually build a leadership mindset, and giving you exercises and tools and specific tactics to help you put together a plan for your mindset journey moving forward, so that this fall and next year 2023 you can really leverage your mindset, overcome obstacles, and really focus on one or two key things of mindset. We all have mindset challenges and issues. I have mindset issues around my weight, and I have mindset issues around selling. Meanwhile, here I am selling my workshop. But if you're interested in doing it, take a look at the link, and yeah, let me know, because it's going to be a really small, intimate group of 4 to 6 people. It's really small. We're going to hear your entire story and your business, and we're going to give you the tools on how to actually build a deeper, more powerful mindset. So take a look at the link, sign up. It's a fantastic deal, because my normal consulting rate is probably triple the cost of this workshop, and you actually get 3 coaches, not just one. So take a look at it and see if you're interested. Other people on stage, I think Gaurav's next. Gaurav, welcome. Go ahead, share your thought or comment or question.
Thank you so much, Bobby, for giving me the mic. And it's been my pleasure to hear all the wonderful speakers speak. And hello, Indra. Good to see you and, in fact, hear you. So you are doing a wonderful work by your positivity spaces and all, and your tweets. So hi, everyone. My name is Gaurav Medhi. I'm also from India, and I would look forward to connect with Karan and interact with more with him. But this is a wonderful space that being hosted by Bobby and Indra. I look forward to attend more and learn from all of you. And indeed, this is and yes, Twitter is a very powerful tool. If we start communicating with each other, we can develop ourselves personally as well as professionally. And I'm here to learn from all of you and grow myself. That's all from my side from today, and looking forward to hear the wonderful speakers as well as the wonderful listeners that is here, and to connect with all of you, because in the end, which I where in all the spaces that I come in, I always say, wherever we are from this, from the world, we need each other to grow, and we need to learn from each each other, no matter whatever nation we come from. And I look forward to connect with all of you and learn from all of you. Thank you so much once again, Bob. You are doing a great job, and let's connect and learn from both of us. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Gaurav. And yeah, that's really nice. And I think that I want to applaud people who come up on stage and just share a thought and create some impact with this conversation, right? And I think that's really important. That's storytelling. That's personalization. We're going to remember what Gaurav said. We're going to remember what Jesse said. We're going to remember what other people contributed to this conversation. So for those in the audience, if you ever want to come up on stage and share something or share a thought, yeah, it's a way to stand out. Like, you want to be seen as a thought leader. You want to be able to get your storytelling and personalization to stand out. You want to get a TEDx talk. Always step up. One of my big things, you either step up, step aside, or step down, and spend more time stepping up than stepping aside or stepping down from things, right? If you're in there and you want to actually make an impact, the people who step up get noticed. The people who step aside, I appreciate and understand them, and I support them. The people who step down, well, they can go their own way, and that's fine too. So, but stepping up is a really, really important thing for people to do. And if you have trouble with that, again, that could be a mindset thing. It just could be an experience thing. But again, it all comes to mindset and tactics and experience. So thanks for sharing that comment. I want to go to Teresa now. Teresa, please welcome and share your thoughts today.
Hello. Thank you, Bobby. Thank you for hosting. And hello, Indra. It's always a pleasure to see you. Thanks for having me. Caveat is I actually worked on the team that brought TED and TEDx from California to Canada when they chose to do the TED at Vancouver and TEDx in Whistler. So I have just a really fantastic experience of working with them for that particular year. I do have a question for you, Bobby, is with regards to TEDx, storytelling and personalization. For me, for example, that was 2014. So we're coming up to almost 10 years ago. Media, just everything about the world has changed so much, and yet it's really still is the same. Storytelling is storytelling. How best is it though for someone when they're putting together a TEDx presentation in 2022 with regards to, we have TikTokers, we have NFT, we have like all of this new digitized, this new digital world, and yet storytelling really is, when it comes down to it, I remember working at the resort, and storytelling is literally telling a story around a fire, by Indigenous people, and utilizing dance and their sculptures and all of that. So, is there a particular change that you've seen happen that is important for all of us to know when we're creating a TEDx or any type of personalization and content, but especially for TEDx, that we need to be more cognizant of being in 2022? Or is it, I know for me, it's about being authentic. So I tend to go more to old world style.
Wow, that's a fantastic question. So here's what I'll say. I mean, there's definitely a trend towards more shorter content and shorter story. And Tracy, you may want to mute yourself while we're just because I can hear you. Um, there's there's more shorter form content. So my original mentor years ago when I started speaking, he would do hour long keynotes with no PowerPoint, and his keynote would have this really powerful story that he would take people through for the entire hour. And for me, I'd also tell stories that were longer in my speeches. And then what happened was now people don't want the hour, they want you for half an hour. And so they want you to tell shorter stories. So now what happens is I still might tell a longer story, but now what I do is let's say a 30-minute presentation, I might tell three shorter stories that are like 3 to 5 minutes long to me, and then to give them the point, to give them the data, and give them the case study or whatever it might be. So I've had to evolve that. Similarly, with the rise of TikTok. I mean, again, if a TikTok person wants to come on the TEDx stage, they're not going to just do a TikTok video and show, "Hey, here's a funny shtick." No, they're going to tell us why they're doing that. They're going to talk about the journey. So storytelling still matters incredibly for TEDx talks, and every person that's in my TEDx speaker program, where I help them, and my TEDx speaker program, if you're interested in it, is I guarantee I can get you a TEDx talk if you do the work. If you follow my methodology, my system, and you do the work, I can guarantee you a TEDx talk. I can guarantee you paid speaking gigs. But most people don't want to do the work, right? And then they make excuses for why they didn't get what they should have got. So do the work, and you can get there. And what I would say is for the pitches for storytelling now is that now a storytelling has to be part of a TEDx talk. The culture of TEDx is personal, and the storytelling is a huge part of it. And and people care in TEDx audiences to hear your story. Now, what's changed is that they're shorter stories, right? And so now there's shorter TED talks too. There's a lot of famous TEDx talks that are only 3 or 6 minutes long. The one of my favorite ones is my friend Drew Dudley, he's my personal friend from Toronto. He did this one called Lollipop Leadership, and it's only 6 minutes long, but it's a great story and a great lesson. And so I think there's a lot of opportunity now for people to put together shorter ones versus doing the maximum 18 minutes of TEDx talks. And the other trend is like instead of telling one whole long story, you may tell a couple of short stories within that TEDx talk. And I think that's the big shift. Although I'd still say, TEDx as an 18-minute platform, still, you could still have a really great 10 to 12-minute story with 3 to 5 minutes of exposition and analysis and lessons in it. And I think that's still going to be a really fantastic talk too. But I think that's the big trend, that people now like shorter and sweeter. So that means your videos and some of your stories, if you can tell 1 to 3 minute stories, that's going to serve you incredibly well. with your content on LinkedIn, Instagram, TikTok, everywhere that is. Indra, any thoughts on this?
Well, actually, now that you were talking about the video idea, I have been playing around and experimenting for several months on my Instagram account and keeping the videos. And actually, I've cut them shorter and shorter. And it seems to be a lot more popular to do a shorter video. The shorter, the better, and get straight to the point. So this is kind of interesting. So every platform, and I know Bobby talks about finding the nuances of all the different platforms, but it's really fun to experiment with your content and how you can adjust it and try. Okay, so do a long format, do a 2 minute, which is basically where I was at 2 or 3 minutes, maybe even 5 minutes. Well, that's okay for a live, and a live is another whole different thing. But for example, even on Instagram, I was trying. Now I got down to 30 seconds, which seems to be the sweet spot because people are busy. They just want to receive your message and they want it to be succinct. So depending on the different platforms, we're going to adjust our strategy, and the same with the TED Talk that Bobby is talking about. Those specific examples of finding those specific things, of going through the process and ticking off all the boxes on what works with that methodology.
Yeah, thanks for that, Indra. Teresa, you have a follow-up question?
I do, thank you. And thank you so much, Indra. Gary Vaynerchuk, um, of course, with regards to, he was the creator of Wine Library TV many, many decades ago, a couple of decades ago, and then Vaynerchuk Media. He was stating something about quality, and this is specifically for TikTok, but also Indra. I love what you're saying about Instagram in terms of like the 30-second is the sweet spot, and you're a wonder for doing all of the research and being able to let us know and give us that information so that we can gear it towards that right away. And so thank you. The interesting comment that Gary had said in a post was he actually is a proponent of seeing people post once a day, like your post would be limited to one in 24 hours and it being quality. And what I'm seeing is not only for, like you say, TED Talks, TEDx, and all of storytelling, but for our brand and personalization, I'm seeing, and I've started doing, as you say, Indra, shorter and more. But then that means that I'm posting a few times in a day, partially to keep my Instagram storyboard looking the way the brand is supposed to, or being in timely, being relevant. So both Bobby and Indra, my question to you is, what is your thought in terms of, in the, say, the lead up of, if you're doing a TEDx, you've gotten it and all that, and now you want to not only brand it, you want to make sure that you're getting all your social media, all of your storytelling and branding out to the world. Is it better to post once a day quality? What do you think of Gary Vaynerchuk's kind of thing? Or is multiple, making sure we're hitting the time zone for each country and all the rest of it? What are your thoughts?
Indra, would you like to go first?
Yes, I have some thoughts on this. Okay, so I love this question, Teresa. Thank you so much. So I was experimenting a little bit just by myself on the Twitter, say for example, and the different times. And okay, so I was doing a whole lot of tweets and doing a whole lot of work. And yes, you can automate these things as well. But I actually like to be hands on when I'm actually seeing what works and what doesn't work. And I pretty much discovered that if I just do some posts, and now I just do like a couple of posts in the morning, and I'm moving on to my other things. So on Twitter, I just do that. And I found that over the 24-hour mark, a lot of people that are your followers that are connected, they will jump in, like, and comment, and you'll get some engagement with that regardless. when I was sort of sporadic and I was spreading it across the day, I was actually getting less engagement. And I think it's because for my connections that I have on Twitter, I think they're predominantly in the US, so mainly getting those people. And then plus later in the day, then there's, I think, there's the global as it starts to go, the Europe people, the people in India, and then all the other ones. So pretty much before I go to bed, it's getting close to, okay, we're kind of hitting the peak, and then I'll wake up, and if I do check it the next day, there have been some from those other regions. But predominantly most of the movement for me in my account happens in the morning. And that's without, I didn't go into the analytics or anything. I just wanted to organically see for myself. So I would suggest, Teresa, that you do some experiments, and depending on what platform you're talking about, see what works for you. I know that the other piece of advice that Bobby had given me, because I was a little bit, I kind of left my LinkedIn account for a while, and and then I was just trying to reactivate it, re-energize it, and I was actually posting too much. And when I went cut back to 2 or 3 posts, which Bobby recommended, it was amazing how it just seems to be received better when you click on the analytics and more people are looking at it. Even if they're scrolling and they watch the video or whatever it is, or the post, they click on the post. So I'm thinking less is more overall, just from my own hands-on of experimenting, but also everybody's account is going to be different. Your content is going to be different from the next person sitting next to you, than the other person. So do a little bit of experimenting. And, I didn't get too obsessed about it. I just thought, okay, from Monday to Friday this week, I'm just going to try this. And then the following week, I'm going to try this. And I just tweaked it until I figured out, okay, well, by the end of the month, this is what works for my account. But then I've heard for other people's account that they're better to post more in the later afternoon, but they're in a different region. So find what works for you and don't be afraid to experiment.
Yeah, I think there's lots to say on this, but I mean, the other thing is when you think about content, it really depends on what we're talking about. Are we talking about tweets? Are we talking about stories on Instagram? Are we talking about an actual post on Instagram or YouTube or LinkedIn? Right? That makes a big difference, right? So stories and tweets are really good because you can do multiple ones whenever you feel like it, and just share the journey of what you're doing. So if Gary Vaynerchuk's saying share a post, a LinkedIn post, an Instagram post, that's different. But yeah, I mean, those who have, but the other thing is who has the resources? You have the time, like how much time you got, right? That's the thing. I always focus with people, what's your brand? What's your target? What's your objective? Now, how much time do you have, right? Because you can't be everything for everywhere. So what I would say to that is, yeah, I mean, if you can pull off once a day, that's great, but not everyone can do that. On LinkedIn, you don't want to put, and Instagram, you don't want to post more than once a day. That's what the algorithm and that's what the research tells us. On stories though, and Twitter tweets, I mean, I can do multiple ones whenever I feel like it. I also would say that it should be a combination of things you plan strategically that are consistent to build an audience, right? So let's say I'm going to plan let's for example, I'm going to plan a weekly video on Twitter and Instagram and LinkedIn, and I'm going to talk about this. And that consistency is going to build an audience. The more consistent you are, the more people will show up. They know you're there. Consistency is really, really key. But then the other times, sometimes you just want to post something because you want to post something. So you have to find the balance between just feeling like posting or feeling like not posting, and then the things that you want to have planned. Because I generally feel that if you feel like posting, you should just share it. I mean, if it's in your mind and you want to just get it out there, 30-second video or whatever, or a tweet or whatever it is, just put it out there. I mean, certain things happen. Like when Queenie died, I decided to do a LinkedIn post about it, and so I did. I hadn't planned anything. I normally don't post things on Fridays, but I decided, I'm going to post something. So, but at the same time, I also have planned posts that I want to do and share. The one I shared on LinkedIn on Sunday was a planned post for my LinkedIn local Toronto event that I'm doing. So I planned that one. And other times it's random, but I wouldn't get too caught up in it. But it's also important to have a little bit of knowledge of how the different platforms and algorithms and culture works, and use that to your advantage. I want to make sure. And sorry, Gaurav, you have something to add to this specific thing, or do you have a separate question?
Yes, I wanted to add one point. Please correct me if I'm wrong. Actually, wanted to share that it depends on person to person how we use our social media. It's like, yes, there will be some people who will give some kind of rude comments or something like that. But it's all depend as I said, it depend to person to person. It's like whom we connect to, what we share, as you were and as you were sharing just now, and Indra was also sharing, and whatever we share it to the world, just, I mean, I want to add only one line, like karma is real. Whatever we give it to the world, it will come back to us. So that's what I wanted to add to both of your points. I hope I got it correct.
Yeah, thanks for that. And I want to also be mindful of people who've been waiting on stage to speak. So I want to thank you for your patience. I will get to you. In my mind, it's going to be Manish, then Victoria, then Fran. So Manish, welcome on stage. Please go ahead.
Hi, thanks, Bobby. Thanks, Indra, and hello to all the other speakers and listeners. Bobby, I in some ways stumbled into this room, but then I decided to stay because it's an area that is close to my heart, and I fully agree with you. You kept reiterating the fact that whenever we speak, if we take feedback on a long-term basis, we will get better and better. And as long as we're focused on what we want to achieve, whether it's a TEDx speech or something else, you can get there. So I think that's definitely an important lesson. What I wanted perhaps to share is something a bit more deeper, and the importance of stories per se in sort of civilization. In a lot of ways, stories are about humans and events, and our mind actually stores events through stories. And what's the difference between, say, a person or event or a story is things that get attached almost like tags to that event, and those are the emotions linked to that particular event. Those are the morality associated, the ethics associated, the feeling of happiness, joy, or sadness associated. So in a lot of ways, a story is a series of persons or events with those emotional tags attached to it. And in a lot of ways, our life is a series of stories. If you look at what we know of history, it is largely embedded through sort of subsequent generations as stories. We learn more through stories than through any other form, actually, of communication. Most of our moral compass is based on stories. Most of our religious impact, spiritual impact, is based on stories. So stories are huge influencers on civilization. So I wanted to make that point quite clear. And when we talk about stories, why is personalization important? Because if I'm talking about somebody else's story, I can't get the passion in there. So when I then talk about my own story, the passion, the sincerity, the integrity comes in, and that's what the audience sees. Unless you're a very good actor, generally stories come true if they are your stories. They are personalized to who you are, and you come across as a passionate human being. So I think, to me, actually, most of what is in our head is really stories. I'm going to leave it there for now because I'm aware other people are waiting, but there's a few other things I can come back to if there's time.
Yeah, thanks, Manish. I think that yeah, stories have been here since the beginning of time, and it's how we share our values and our beliefs and our culture and our thoughts and ideas. It's how we move forward as communities, as societies, as nations, as corporations, as people. And so, the whole point of storytelling is that that's why we've been doing telling stories for millennia, because of the way it connects, the way it inspires action. And so, if you want to inspire action in your world, start telling your story, start putting it out there, personalize your content in a much more effective way. Thank you so much for that. I want to go on to the next person on stage, only because normally I end this at 12:30 and we're already 4 minutes past. So Victoria, welcome to stage. Hope you're doing well. Please go ahead and share your thoughts.
Hi, Bobby. How are you doing? Yeah.
Good,
Thanks
thank
for the
you.
weeks. Back and forth. Good day. Yeah, I just like because I do like TikTok creating and videos and stuff like that, and I think, oh well, what's my niche? I haven't really got one, so I just share a lot of content for other people and for others. And Facebook's a good one if you're doing your Facebook reels because I got 57,000 views on my one, so you can get there and you can be seen. So yeah, keep doing what you're doing, and maybe I'll do a TED talk sometime. Never know.
Yeah, and again, I love how you're speaking to the idea of just putting stuff out there and being consistent and having patience. You got to play the long game, guys. It's not going to happen overnight. But when you start sharing things, uh, people will see it and people respond. You start to build a tribe. I mean, Indra is a good example of that. Like she's done an amazing job. And if you don't know Indra, make sure you follow her community, and she's done just some amazing things. Indra, anything you want to add?
Yes, I just wanted to also reflect back on something that Manesh said. This because this topic is also about the storytelling aspect and personalization. I think it's also the fact that we reflect on our stories and that we pick up the lessons to be learned from those stories. Often when we're we're looking at our stories, sometimes we don't look deep enough. For a lot of people that say, "Oh well, I don't have anything to share in my story," but if you reflect on what the learning piece was, well, what did I learn from that, and can others benefit from learning the lessons that I learned if I share what I learned? So there's so many things that look. I even know. I was talking to my husband about this the other day, and I was creating some different content for some of my YouTube videos. And, I was just sort of just skimming over, something that I didn't even realize a story that had so many lessons in it. And he was saying, but other people would probably look at that and see all the pieces and the lessons that are learned. So I think it's really valuable to dive deep into some of our stories and to dissect them out.
Thanks, Andrew. I appreciate that. Again, great shares by everyone on stage. I really do appreciate it. And and if anybody has a comment or whatever, that you can always put your hand up and share something as well. Again, if you're liking the space, make sure you tweet this out there. Make sure you look at the tweets that are up above, and you retweet those. Or if you're interested in the things that I'm working on, please take a look. You can also share the replay and share some insights. What are the top 3 things you've learned having been in this conversation? We'd love to have that with us. Fran, welcome to the stage. Thanks for your patience. Go ahead, share your thoughts. Are you there, Fran? We'd love to hear from you. Okay, well, Fran, if you do have a chance to get back, maybe she stepped away or something.
No, I'm here.
Oh,
I'm here.
hey, hi.
Sorry.
No
Okay,
worries.
no, okay, I'll do this as quickly as I can, but I have a message for Teresa first. Teresa, I met you talked about indigenous people. I think you would be very interested in a book called Seven Arrows. It's all about American Indians, and it's a beautiful narrative, and it has Curtis photographs in it, and I think you would find it stunning. Okay, so my background is in ethnography, and I'm also a communications specialist and a journalist. So I have submitted 2 grant proposals to go after Trump's minions to find out what the narrative is really, besides rage. And I'm wondering if when I get finished with that, if I could distill it, I hope, to something that would be intriguing in a TED Talk.
Well, you can do a TEDx talk about anything, right? So if you want to do something like that, you totally can. It's just a question of how you pitch and present it, because
Right.
you have to think of the TEDx organizer's perspective, right? They're running an event, and you may want to mute yourself while I'm talking because it's there's a bit of feedback, friend.
Oh,
Uh, so you have to look at the TEDx organizer's perspective, right? What do they want to hear? Do they want to hear political commentary on a TEDx talk application? It's less likely, but they still might take it. So
okay.
that's something to keep in mind, because And also, let's say they have an audience where there might be people who are Trump supporters, and maybe the people may not be happy to hear some of these things, because often when you present data to some folks who are have some sort of emotional or anger with something, they will not react in a very, very positive way. So I think that, and then the other thing I'll say is that whatever you do in terms of research, you need to find that really cool, unique angle, that very unique, succinct angle that's going to get people's attention when you pitch the TED Talks. So they'll say, "Oh, wow, I never thought of that," or "That's surprising me," or "I'm really interested to hear that talk." When I pitched my hug talk, I said I'd like to explore the history and mystery of hugs, and they're like, What is that?" And then they brought me in to talk about that, because they found that really, really curious. And then when I titled it, I titled the talk, "Can you change a person's life in 20 seconds?" That's what I called it, and they loved that, right? And they got people's attention. And it was also valued by a bunch of feedback that I did. But again, so for me, political ones are a little bit more tough. But if you can find that unique angle, that really precise point or thing that will get people's attention, that's going to get the TEDx talk organizers to notice. Is that helpful? Awesome. Well, I'm glad. Thanks for coming up. I appreciate that. And I see Liam. Liam, welcome to the stage. Glad to have you here. I'd love to hear what you have to share with us today.
Hi, Bobby. Thanks for that, and thank you for hosting this space, because this is an amazing discussion. And I want to touch a little bit on the storytelling aspect. And I think it's so important, because people never remember what you say, but they always remember how you made them feel. And you can do that through stories. And I think there are a few different things that people try when storytelling, and it makes them get it wrong. And I think the first of those things is you feel you need to include every detail, but that's really not the case. I think we should be sticking to the defining moments, not every moment. Context is important. Too much context will kill your story. So I think open by triggering an emotion, and I think try to make your audience laugh, or amaze them, or make them feel like it's their point. So you want them to feel, finally, somebody said exactly what I'm thinking. And I think that's always a good piece to start on. But know which emotion that you're trying to evoke through the story. I think keeping it moving is important too. A lot of people ruin their message and their story through being long winded, but you're playing the attention game. If it doesn't add value, it really doesn't need to be said. And along those same lines, keeping it simple so that everybody in the audience can understand it is really important. But something that is critical is talking about a change. People love a story where your circumstances change. It might be around a defining moment, around something you learn, a process that added value to your life or somebody else's. But also talk about what the outcome was, and more importantly, how you felt at that time. If you can share your emotion, then people are going to resonate with that. You're going to feel human. You're going to be easy to connect with. And I think an important piece is, if you've told a story a million times, whether written or you're speaking to an audience, your audience is hearing it for the first time. So watch the audience, learn which bit of your stories is lighting them up, and every time you tell it, refine it. And hopefully, if any of you are out there going to be delivering a TEDx talk or similar, hopefully those tips will help. Thanks, Bobby.
And I'd like to say thanks for coming to your TED Talk. That was great. So really, really great insights, Liam. Thank you so much for that. I agree with everything you said. It's stuff that we've all been talking about in the last hour and a half. So that was amazing. Totally agree with you. And with that, I think we're coming to the end of our chat today. I do Twitter Spaces every Mondays at 11:15 a.m. Eastern. I do. Okay, Jeff, I'll let you up, man. But normally I'm going to close the room. But I'll let Jeff up. I do a Twitter space on Sundays at 3 p.m. Eastern, which is on LinkedIn Mastery. And then I'm also doing a LinkedIn Mastery session at 4 p.m. Talking about LinkedIn and mindset at 4 p.m. on Clubhouse. And then I also do another one on Fridays, which is, on Tuesdays and Thursdays on LinkedIn Audio, where I talk about, actually, the one on LinkedIn Audio on Tuesday at 4 p.m. is going to be amazing. I'm going to talk about specifically personalization of content on LinkedIn, how it's trending and changing, and how to do it best. So if you want to join that conversation, that's at 4 p.m. Tomorrow. So with that, Jeff, I'll let you share before we close the room. Go ahead.
So I know you're wrapping it up, but I am getting such a kick out of your 20-second "Can you change a person's life in 20 seconds" YouTube clip on the TEDx channel. I think this is really, really super cool, and I'm diving into right now. And I'm sorry, I'm multitasking while I'm listening to you and the team talk as well. But like about fearless hugs, so I think that's just pretty darn cool. My kids are gonna get some hugs tonight. I'm telling you right now, the kids are gonna get some hugs, and the wife as well, of course. I just wanted to say that I think what Liam mentioned earlier on, real quick, was tremendous about trying to make an impact with your storytelling. The one thing that also has worked for me, at least, and I know I always try to preach this, but I think that stories are such. It's if you are in the business of running a business or trying to make sales, whatever it might be, it is your number one tool in the toolkit. Being able to share stories. And the one thing that has always worked for me, and I always try to share with the folks that I manage, that try to come up with there's really three scenarios in my opinion, three scenarios by which, if you can answer these three scenarios with a compelling story, you are one step closer into closing that sale. It's of course scenarios that involve creating more time for people, making more money, and your ability to show leadership skills. And I think that if you were able to come up with a story for each of those scenarios when you meet someone new in a networking session or on the plane or at a coffee shop, those three things, when it comes to business, will always pop up. And if you're able to somehow convey the value you can create with those three, in those three scenarios, or just one of them or two of them, whatever it might be, again, like I said, the closer you are to closing that sale. You had mentioned, Bobby, about how you've told the story 500 times or 5,000 times over and over and over and over again. Well, here you go. Here is exactly that scenario, is that chances are, if you meet someone, they're meeting you for the very, very first time. So again, come up with a story on how you have created more time for clients, made more money for a client, or was an exceptional leader that has led teams to great successes, and the better place you will be to closing that sale. So I just want to share that.
Yeah, thanks, Jeff. I do appreciate that, and I'm glad you saw like the TEDx talk. I mean, my fifth TEDx talk was the one that finally made it to the TED.com website, and it's about 20-second hugs, and which is a rare, rare thing that people do. Because when you think about people you hug for 20 seconds that aren't your kids or your partner, who are they? I mean, the only time we do that type of thing is usually at a funeral or during tragedy, because people need it. And so the whole idea behind that TED Talk is that, imagine if we could take this rejuvenating, and there's science behind it, the rejuvenating, supportive, and connective hug, and do it proactively with people on a regular basis. Imagine how powerful that could be in terms of helping people. So that's what that TED Talk's about. So you're welcome to check that guys out. Check that out. We're gonna end the room. Indra, any final thoughts for the content and the story shared today?
Look, I think it's been an amazing space. Everybody has shared so many amazing contributions. I just wanted to leave something with everybody. From where I sit, as a filmmaker, I start to get a vision when I'm hearing voices, and I'm starting to put a story together in my head. And a lot of the times, I think we underestimate the power of our human visualization skills. So, as we're putting things together, whether it's a talk, a video, whatever the content is, even the content that we write in our posts, in our tweets, always remember that a visual creation of our mind and of the reader is going to be perceived in what we create visually, it's such a powerful thing that we have as humans, this visualization piece. And everybody here, I've been creating these visuals because I instead of looking at the bubbles here and the faces, it's really powerful to hear the stories and the visions. For example, when Jeff was talking about hugging his kids, I got the vision of Jeff hugging his beautiful children and his wife. And I think that's the power that storytelling and personalization really has. It's this visualization piece. So thank you for holding this wonderful space, Bobby. Thank you, everyone, for joining the space. And of course, as I sign off, I'm sending you all love, light, and blessings.
Thank you, Indra. And again, I want to thank all the people who came on stage to speak. Like oftentimes I do tour space and it's like trying to pull teeth to get people on stage. And we have so many amazing people who join us on stage. So, hey, come back next week for these things. I love having you here. And if you are interested in topic ideas, DM me and we can. I pick my topics usually the morning of, so it's not like I have this big plan, right? So you can certainly reach out to me, and maybe we can. I'm happy to do some with Liam or Jeff. Like, let's do something. That'd be kind of cool. Um, and again, storytelling is an incredible way for you to humanize a connection and show people that you are a human too and relate to you on a really fundamental basis. And if you can get good at storytelling, whether it's concise and focused or whether it's heartfelt, emotional, and vulnerable, you're going to be able to inspire people to act. You're going to get them to connect with you. They're going to follow you, and you're going to be able to make that impact that you want. And the reason why personalization of content is so important is because every best relationship out there, whether it's personal or professional, starts with a personal connection. I don't sell things to people unless they actually have a personal connection and familiarity and they trust me. So even when I mention my workshops that are up above, like I'm doing the TEDx thing on Wednesday, I'm doing the mindset workshop on Thursday, you're not going to want to go unless you actually have a personal connection with me. So, I'm not expecting you to look at the tweet and click the link and sign up. But if you do, great. But if you don't, you want to send me a message and talk more about what you're looking for and how I can help you, yeah, DM me. That's kind of how it works. And I hear your story and I hear your connection. I share my own stuff to help you, again, take that to the next level. So for me, if you want to get clarity in your personal brand, dive deep, and you want to build a thought leadership brand, and that includes content creation, building meaningful relationships, speaking with confidence, getting a TEDx talk, and becoming that thought leadership brand that people see and have that authority, reach out to me. I'm happy to help you. I can share with you how I do that for folks. And I want to thank you all for being here. Have yourselves a wonderful week. I wish you guys all the best. And if you want to learn more about who I am and what I believe, look at my tweets. In particular, look at my pinned tweet. Thanks so much, everybody. Oh, and last thing I'll say is, if you learned something of this, the replay will be shared. Make sure you share the replay, share one or two things you learned, and tag me again. If I see it, then I'll retweet to my 500,000 followers, which can bring you some followers, which is all a win-win, right? So there you go. All the best to you. Lots of love. Take care. Close the room in 5 seconds. 5, 4. Bye.